name's Harvey Briggs. I'm at RPC and I studied law at Durham University. The work of a dispute resolution lawyer is pretty varied and totally depends on the kind of matter that you're working on, the area in which you're working. Generally in disputes, particularly when it gets to the litigation stage. And so you have kind of definite procedural milestones and deadlines to hit within that. And so you're always working off the back of a tight court-mandated structure. So I'd say the difference between the work that I do now as a qualified lawyer versus the work that I did as a trainee is there's way more kind of ownership over what you do. There was, at RPC, we had autonomy as trainees as well, but you're really expected as a qualified lawyer to own whatever work stream you're working on and to deliver that product to the client. I'd say there's also way more, as a qualified solicitor, there's way more client contact than perhaps you would get as a trainee. I'm still pretty junior, but I'm lucky enough to have direct contact with the client, and I'm able to get direct instructions from the client. When I was a trainee in commercial and banking litigation, I worked on a £600 million freezing injunction, which I was fortunate enough to see it from start to finish, and it was condensed within a kind of 6-month timeline, which was great. We ended up winning, which was even better, but the case had so many different facets, was incredibly political at the time, but also the legal issues at play were super interesting. Coupled with the fact that the team that I worked in was great. So loved that, going back to what I was saying about the team element, loved being part of the team. And also there was real harmony between us, the solicitor team and the barrister team, which made for a winning team in the end. So in terms of big developments at the moment, particularly in competition litigation, but also in disputes more generally, is around litigation funding agreements and third-party litigation funding. And the Supreme Court a couple of months back handed down a really important judgment in the case of PACCAR. And what that judgment has the potential to do is to drive a hole through many of the litigation funding agreements in place between claimants and the third-party litigation funders. So I'd say that's kind of one area to watch. The key skills, I think, the general skills in disputes are attention to detail, having a kind of time management, case management, being able to digest a lot of information and synthesize that information pretty quickly. But I think more broader than that, you have to have a certain steeliness, I think, in disputes in particular, and a certain drive to want to win the case. You also have to have an element, I think, of looking at issues holistically and figuring out potential weaknesses in the other side's case. And a lot of that is obviously done at a senior level, but I think you can really weigh in at a junior level as well, particularly because you're the one who is often all over the documents. So you can really kind of assist in that process. For anyone looking to becoming a solicitor, I'd say the number one thing is back yourself. There's a lot of people with a lot of varied backgrounds, and that's what makes the profession so great, I think. But you need to back yourself. Particularly in disputes, I think you need to kind of back yourself and back your strengths. The other thing that I'd say is any experience is good experience, and it totally depends on how you package that experience in, say, interviews. Whilst legal experience is really good, there is a kind of threshold that it's really difficult typically to get neat legal experience. So if you have non-legal experience or experience in a totally different profession, a lot of those skills are totally transferable to a career in law. So I would just say, think about how to package that and think about how those skills might lend themselves to a career in law and a career as a solicitor or a barrister. So I think one thing that perhaps isn't seen as widely and was a bit of an unknown for me is the kind of, there's a lot of, particularly at the junior end, a lot of unglamorous work. There also can be at times quite long hours in the legal profession. But what I'd say is I found that often some of the key moments on the cases that I've been involved with have happened sort of post 8:30 p.m. And so it's about sticking in there. So in terms of kind of big challenges that are facing the legal profession, the most obvious general one, I think, is economic pressures more generally. But beyond that, I think more specifically is the challenges around artificial intelligence and machine learning, and how we integrate large language models, LLMs, into our daily processes, and what that's going to do on the ground within the firms themselves. Because there's always going to be this pressure from clients who are demanding more for less, and it's how we, as a legal profession, integrate and are able to use those natural language processing kind of tools to enable the product to be better for clients.